Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Friday, July 6th, 2018, and it's been fireworks all week. Well, today is our weekly country roads with our friend Winston Shrout. So we have Winston with us. How are you, Winston?
Well, doing pretty good. The sun came up, so I woke up today. So, like I say, any day I wake up is a good day.
Well, that's good. We have thunderstorms right now, but
Um,
there was a silver lining because good things are moving. So I wanted to, well, today Winston's going to be talking about assignment of reversionary interest. These pertain to prepaid accounts. As Winston, we talked about in our last report regarding the Declaration of Independence, that he addressed this but didn't go into detail about it. We're going to go into some detail about that today. But I first want to address the recent WikiLeaks drops that the GoldFish Report has been doing. These are the server. This is a copy of the server, and they're actually published publicly first. I've actually been able to download them from that public source and repost and publish them. But it is a very limited public source where I'm getting them from. So GoldFish Report is kind of out there getting them out there. Some of the revelations, and I just want to take a minute to discuss this. Some of the revelations are very disturbing, quite frankly, sickening. But it's the truth that people need to know. This is one of the documents from the server, from the DNC server. This is talking about says, do not distribute, do not copy. This was never intended to be made public, and they never thought it would be. But this is the second page of a document that's, it's a document that is like a strategic committee put in place to assess the process of the election and what their countermeasures could use. The DNC, could use in order to swing the election in their favor, and if not, then they had a plan for post-election. And I just wanted to read a little bit of what the deep state really has been thinking about and doing. And this here, we're talking about a BL riot. I'm not sure what that is, but again, white staged civil unrest could prevent pockets of America from voting. The damage is too widespread. Command and control is dicey at this point, as substantial numbers of employed minorities have defected to Trump. So this is huge. Just one is huge. One of these is huge as it is. This is saying that they have staged civil unrest, which we knew. We reported about this on the POTUS report. I'm sorry, with Jim Fetzer. These are the false flags, folks. These are the false flags. This is Charlottesville. This is, what happened up in Berkeley, over at UC Berkeley in New York City. This is the kind of thing. If that didn't work, then we're going to go to Zika apocalypse. Improved strains of Zika have been delivered, and we have disseminated them to operatives. What? What? They have disseminated these strains of Zika virus? Unfortunately, this will suppress women voters more than men. Even as Zika, or ZIKV2, is lethal in adults, this would hurt Hillary Clinton, and Trump voters are willing to risk lethal pathogens to vote. I mean, folks, this is absolutely diabolical. And just wait, there's more. States have blocked key immigrant operatives. Without the required Muslim Islamist populace in place, the IE plan will not be sufficiently impactful. This is so concerning. This is what you call treason and sedition. This is the deep state. This was the plot that President Kennedy warned everybody about in his speech to the American Press Club 1961, that there was a plot to enslave every man, woman, and child. And before he leaves his high and noble office, he intends to expose this plot. And 7 days later, he was assassinated. This is where Q comes in. This is where Q has taken up that place. Do you think we just forgot about the president? Do you think people didn't know what was going on? A lot of people knew what was going on. So let's look at this. Let's keep going for a minute. Unnatural disaster. HARP is in skeleton crew mode. Subterranean thermobaric devices in fracking mines are untested. Surveys suggest this might not stop Trump voters. I mean, unproven techniques, unintended consequences. Reactivating HARP may have pale horse protocol ramifications. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm sure it's on this file on this server. So recommended salvage.
It might refer back to that book by what's his name? Behold a Pale Horse.
Bill Cooper.
Bill Cooper.
Okay, might be, in fact. So then their salvage program is called Firesign. Okay, for almost 2 decades, the Department of Defense and NASA have coordinated on a black book project under the code name Firesign. Firesign's aim is to create a religious awe effect in enemy populations. Do you hear this? Enemy populations? To create an instantaneous psychological soft kill, abject submission. The operation uses high-powered lasers to project real-seeming images on the sodium layer 100 kilometers above the surface. So now you know why they're chemtrailing. These images can cover hundreds or even thousands of square miles and can appear completely real, three-dimensional, and can move. All right, I'm going to just move along, and I'm going to give a little bit more. This is another document from the salvage program. Talking about the technology, and here was the fake alien invasion. So here's the UFO. This is a 3D hologram image. It says it right there. This is the sodium layer in the atmosphere. Here's the origin, the component where it's the laser emits from. There's a fiber, optical fibers rather. There's a laser. You have wavefront sensor, a controller. Look, right from the computer. You could do this sitting at a computer. Look at that. See the computer, the origin of this? You have a deformable mirror. You have your spectrograph. Look at all of this. Visible light. You see that, Winston? Distorted wavefront. I mean, all of this is to create. So the ability to produce these effects across 23% of the continental United States is the objective of Firesign. So this is enemy populations according to the deep state. This is you and me, folks. Okay? The Firesign scenario is that of an invading extraterrestrial force of nearly incomprehensible scale. Massive floating cities descending, God-sized walkers among the clouds with terrifying weapons, wheels of fire and eyes. This phenomena, when activated, will bring electoral and social systems to a halt, and in afflicted areas will permit a narrative wherein POTUS is able to call a halt to the invasion. This would have been Hillary if she was elected, and then hand over the torch to Clinton, providing a basic continuity of state. The aftermath of Firesign will be the psychological subjugation of areas where uprisings are most likely to occur. The induced trauma of Firesign will provide ample cover to government and NGOs who will be providing aid. Psychotropic to induce docility. They're going to drug us too. That was their plan. And counseling service, which will ensure further domestication. Folks, this is so diabolical. It's unthinkable the government has been planning and preparing to do these things for the sake of keeping an election and staying in control.
Again, Luis, inform the audience where this document came from.
This came from the WikiLeaks server. This is a document from the copy of the WikiLeaks server. And you're right, Winston. It's a good thing to mention that I did get this from a public source. So it's in the public now, so everybody can see it. And I'm sharing it with you as well. Fire sign will require a great deal of power. Mobile command stations with nitrogen-cooled supercomputers. Nitrogen-cooled supercomputers, folks, at your tax-paying expense. And the co-opting of the elf array. We have created a schedule and teams roster that can be moved in position following the third debate. Oh. So this was planned back, during the campaign, or even before the campaign. In the documents, this is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. So I wanted our viewers to get a sense of this. And what I'm going to do is, one last screen share that I have is just show the viewers where they can find this information. And this is on the GoldFish Report blog. Our blog isn't, sometimes we publish different things. We don't always have the same information as we have on our news page, but this, whatever you see on the blog here, will be shared to the Facebook news page as well. Jim Fetzer and I just did a report on the first data dump of documents that were released, and we will be doing a follow-up to go over these in more detail. So having said that, I wanted you to see what's coming. I wanted you to be aware of why it's so important that we support President Trump, because this is what he's been battling and what he's been trying to repair. So I want to thank you for listening to that, and we will have more. So keep an eye on GoldFish Report on the blog, and it's at the goldfishreport.wordpress.com. And you can also go to the GoldFish Report 24/7 news page on Facebook to keep up with all the latest data releases that are coming out as well. So let's turn the page to our assignment of reversionary interest, which is...
Well, first let me make a few comments about what you just presented.
Yes, sure, sorry.
And that is, in essence, what's happened here is that conspiracy theories have been turned into conspiracy facts.
That's right.
And again, like you had mentioned, these documents are now a part of the public domain, which means that strategically the good guys, the white hats, are not worried that the dark ones know that they know. And so obviously the correction to the problem is already in place. Otherwise, they would not have revealed strategically that what they know. And so, this is good news when items like this are made public, because you would have the confidence that the solution to it has already been effected. So these things are not put out to worry the public that, something bad's fixing to happen. When you see these things put out publicly, you just know that the problem has been corrected
or being addressed. And we see that evidence, Winston, by these over 40,000 sealed indictments, this very long list. And we see arrests happening every day. They're not happening all at once, but they're happening. I think there'll be an increase in these arrests.
Well, they're working their way up from the bottom. Like I say, I was, James had informed me that he was talking, someone had called him who is in direct contact with one of the people working at Gitmo. And he said, yeah, the place is filled up with low-level operatives. And he said they're singing like canaries. So in regards to the 40,000 or whatever, you just have to know that they're working from the bottom up in some instances, and they're collecting data, and hey, it's in operation already. So there's been a lot of speculations and things like that going on, but just know that it's already in operation. Already. It's not something that's going to happen. We talk about sealed indictments. Well, how about the ones that aren't sealed? How about the ones that are in Gitmo? I think Gitmo can take about 8,000 people.
Well, and I'll tell you, Winston, they're probably better off at Gitmo. Otherwise, they'd be kind of like Walking Dead. They'd be taken out instantly. They're probably happy to be in Gitmo and be safe.
Well,
Well
it may be
treated, warm
so, but
temperature. Hey, it's a great barrier reef down there. It's wonderful temperature, free meals. I mean,
I think really they ought to take him up to Nome, Alaska or
yeah,
someplace.
Alcatraz. Are they going to reopen Alcatraz? I heard they were going to reopen
I
Alcatraz.
don't imagine
Yeah,
what for.
in case they need the room.
Well, I think they got the room.
They got all the
Uh,
FEMA camps that they had intended to use for us in this. Oh
yeah,
my God! Remember there were reports. There were pictures of you know thousands and thousands of
body bags, caskets, and all
caskets
kinds of stuff.
that
Now,
you
how
could
the
fit like.
reports like guillotines
Oh yeah, I mean like
and rail
12,000
cars
guillets.
with shackles, and we got it. It just went on and
That was for us.
on.
Those were plans for us, folks. Believe it or not. That's why we're reporting this. And I would, Winston and I would not go out and risk our credibility and reputation on something that we didn't have a reasonable certainty was valid. So we have a reasonable certainty to believe this was, and this is in fact the case. These documents came from the WikiLeaks server. Uh, from my knowledge, that's where they came from. So,
Okay. Well, like I say, things are unfolding. Perhaps not as quickly as what we would like, but they are unfolding. So let's have a little bit of, what's that phrase that you puts out? Trust the plan.
trust the plan.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
let's do that and
Mhm.
insert positive energy into the process. And I think,
Mhm.
it will help it along.
Certainly.
So, to the people that are been watching these things, don't become discouraged. It's working. It's
Yeah.
working slowly, as it turns out. But I suppose it's like anything else. The amount of energy and effort that has to be put into
Mm,
correcting a problem that has existed for 50 or 60 years.
right.
You can imagine what it takes to undo that. And so, but it's going forward. So
Well,
we have we have confidence.
Winston, I think the one thing that is important to mention is for people to not become, you're going to get angry at this information. You're going to be shocked. You're going to be dismayed in some cases. But, um, you know, it'll take a little time to kind of process it and you'll recover, you'll be fine. Okay. I don't think there's any reason for people to go out into the street and become violent and riot
No,
over
not at
this.
all.
That's not where we need to go. We need to go, we need to let the military who's behind Trump, we need to let them handle this because they are handling this. There are military tribunals, at least from the reports I've seen, there are military tribunals that are set up, Trump, to process uh, those who are have committed treason against our country and sedition. It's going to be people you trusted, so just get ready. It's going to be very surprising. But the thing is to stay calm and to help the people around you. Our viewers, Winston, you're not viewing us, for no reason. You're like our worker bees, You're putting. You always wonder, people say, "What can I do to help?" You'll know when the time comes. And the time is approaching. So all of our viewers have to be the ones that are like helping people to stay calm and not be violent, not lash out, because there's a system, as Winston just explained, in place that's addressing this and is addressing it. So we were very close, folks, very, very close to this diabolical plan getting unrolled. So
Well, as I mentioned, the we're not close. It's done.
yeah.
Because if it weren't done,
Right.
they wouldn't be putting out this information.
Hmm.
And so again, for the public effect,
Hmm.
when you see these things starting to become public,
Right.
then you know that the solution has already been effected. So people need not go into fear. We're not waiting on these things to happen. It
Right.
has happened.
Right.
and that's why they're willing to share with the public some of these uh, evidences to turn the conspiracy
Right.
theories into conspiracy facts. So people should not become panicked, not by any means, not at all.
Well, and just so our viewers know, if you're following Q, Q has said, we have the server. And so this is, and I
The
can tell you,
DNC server,
that, well, the WikiLeaks server, which
which
has the
had all the
DNC.
DNC
Yes,
stuff from
e-
Seth Rich.
exactly. Now, the contents I'm getting, so that has been copied, okay? So the contents that I'm getting and posting is from this source, and that basically Q, this person is in contact with Q and POTUS, and they gave him the okay to do this. Just so you
Yeah,
know, that's what
which
I
signifies the
yes,
solutions in place. It has
right,
been effected.
right. So it's going to start coming out, and little by little, because people need to digest this. These are
Yeah,
big
they're
things.
not putting out what we're going to do. They're putting out what we already done.
Well, they don't say what we've done really. Well,
Well, but you have to
yeah,
bridge that gap, because they would not
yeah,
expose these things
right,
if there was any possibility
right,
that the other side could overcome it. That's my point.
exactly.
So people don't need to go into fear about, oh dear, something as bad is fixing to happen. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going
It
to
it's
happen.
been dealt with.
Right.
And so I can see all these crazy shadows on my face. The sun
Yeah,
finally hit over the thing. Let me
that's
let me
good.
kind of maybe scoot around a
Go
little
ahead.
bit.
Go ahead.
Have all this sunlight on me. People
Okay.
might get.
It's okay. It doesn't bother us, Winston, but if it bothers now, it looks worse.
Now it looks worse. Let me go back this way then.
I mean, it might be worse for you.
How
It doesn't look bad on our end. Just maybe it might be worse for you.
about now? That well,
Good.
I still got some up. Wait,
Yeah,
it
but
just
it's
makes my
not as
white
much
hair
as it
look
was
whiter. That's
before.
all.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever you got.
Yeah,
So,
we'll do
folks,
it.
just a little, word of caution from Winston and I both that it's nothing to get, um, to act out on. Definitely
No,
something
no,
that when
absolutely
processed,
not.
we have to process this individually. So that's
Yeah.
all you can do.
Let me see if
So,
I can't get this a little bit
sure,
better.
no problem. So, like I said, the source, his name is George, has uh, has been given the green light to release as much information as he wants, and so it is coming. It's coming slowly, but in small digestible amounts. So, but it's definitely diabolical, and it's good to know that we have a president and a military that's doing something about it, and already has, probably
It already has.
already has, as you're saying. And
Yeah.
it's still, but I think, it's a process. They're just kind of like on cleanup job now. They're cleaning up after the mess.
Yeah. I've kind of made the illusion in the past. Uh, we have won the war. Now the question is,
Hmm.
can we win the peace?
Hmm.
And so, as part of, what my job is, I'm not out there, slugging it out with the dark, the darkness. And all, well, some respects I am, but
Yeah.
my main concern is what will we do so that we don't repeat the mistakes, and the way that we, in my estimation, the way that we would avoid
Hmm.
repeating mistakes is through knowledge
Hmm.
of what the correct processes should be. And so, as solutions in commerce, I mean, all these things, that the conspiracy folks talk, I know all about that. I mean, I studied just like everybody else has. But what my concern is as a result of the outcome, what will people do now? Can we win the peace? That's the question. And so, as an educator, as a you know uh, one who is trying to uh, bring people to a level where we can move into some of these higher thought processes, higher dimensions, higher vibrations, and all these kind of things. Again, that's pretty much what my thrust has been. Can I raise people's intelligence? can I raise their spirituality so that we can win the peace?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that easy. It's not that easy. So that's what, kind of like, what my objective has been.
Mm-hmm. All right, Winston. Well, come to think of it, I think I'm going to include a video of puppies and babies to make you feel
Puppies and
better.
babies.
For anyone who needs to feel better, you can click on that link and feel better instantly.
Yeah. Well, that'd be good. That'd
Yeah,
be
no,
good.
it's wonderful. Yeah. It always makes me feel good when I watch little puppies and babies,
Oh
snuggling
yeah.
together. Yeah.
If
Because that's
if
what
I
it's about. It's about cherishing life. That's what
Yeah.
we enjoy when we videotape those precious moments in our lives of our children or grandchildren, and these in our what's most important to us, what matters the most important to us.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. This fight is about preserving the innocence and
Yes.
the sanctity of
Yes.
life. That's what this battle's about.
We have to bring innocence back onto the planet, and not let that innocence be perverted. So like I say, that's if you'll look at the gist of the country roads, the variety of things that we've reported on,
Mhm.
and I wanted to also refer to this interview we did with this pilgrim the other day. Like I say, I've seen her pictures, I've heard the stories and stuff, but she revealed things in that interview that I had not heard. And that's why I wanted to listen to what she was saying. Because, one of the things she had pointed out, when you're all alone by yourself, how do you treat the person that you're with when you're all alone? How do you
That's
treat
huge.
that party? And so what she was saying, self, introspection. How do I treat myself? Because she had referenced what Jesus had said, as far as treating your neighbor as yourself.
Hmm.
And so, people need to think, well, I'm good to my neighbors. I help out. I'm always, ready to go and take care of whatever needs to be done with my neighbors. So that she was pointing out, how do you treat yourself? Now she went, from 2 points of view. As a pilgrim on a walk, averaging, let's say, 15 miles a day. She said, you have to sit down and take a rest. You have to treat your feet. You have to treat your body. But then also using introspection, because this is a good chance for you. I mean, you're out walking across wherever, nothing to do really except walk one foot in front of the other. But it gives you a chance to evaluate, how do I treat the one I'm with, which is you? And so that was if there was no other message that people got from that interview, I think that was one of the most important points that was made.
Well,
How do you treat yourself?
I agree, Winston, and I think the most important thing that anybody can do for themselves is to really examine your own life. And the gifts that you receive from doing that are all yours,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. So again, like I say, with GoldFish and Country Roads here, my objective is, to get people well enough educated on some of these techniques, commercial principles, and so forth, so that they could do a little bit better when we have the peace. Let me put it that way, because
Right.
as I mentioned,
Hmm.
I'm not willing to just go from one tyranny to just another tyranny. And I
Right.
use that example of the history in China. So again, how do you prevent going from one tyranny to another tyranny when we have been educated in
Right.
tyranny? That's the way we think.
Mm.
So, that's why, I keep saying, it's not Trump. It's not all these ones who are going to cause the change. It's us. It's us. And so in order to do that, then we certainly have to get our ethics, our morals, our principles in such a shape that we won't repeat it, that we will not allow just another tyranny. You know, we can't put up with that. We've gone too far now. So that, you know, that's kind of been what, you know, my position has been. That's what I'm on the planet for.
Mhm.
And so, you know, as an example, you know, we had talked about, you know, early on, I mean, probably within the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 country road reports we had done, we had referred to that allegory.
Right.
And I said, you know, maybe at some point we'll discuss that further. And then several months later, I said, okay, let's open that up.
Right.
And we spent, you know, a good amount of time going over the points of that allegory, eventually ending up in the Luciferian rebellion and
Right.
bringing in some of these elements. But I didn't dump it all at once.
No, no. And I think what was interesting too is that you can get the feel when you about the allegories, okay? When they talk about the Antichrist, I don't think they're talking about one person. I think they're talking about a consciousness
Yeah,
that, and the way you know them is by their deeds. The Bible says you know them by their deeds. So what did we just show you? So the
yeah.
Antichrist is a consciousness, not necessarily a specific person, although you know somebody could mostly represent it, but it is a it's an infiltration. If you think about Antichrist, what is Christ? It's really a Christ consciousness. So it's a consciousness. So an
Well, let me explain a little bit more about that. The word anti,
yeah,
the word anti does not mean opposite.
means
It
against.
means the mirror image. And I'll give the example. I mean, you know, I refer to this Joseph Smith because I know more about him than I know about Buddha or whoever. Okay,
Hmm.
so I know more about him and I know more about his experiences. That's why I refer to him from time to time. And the one particular experience he had, he was confronted at one point by 2 entities. One of them was Jesus, and the other was Lucifer. And he could not tell them apart because the Lucifer was the mirror image of Jesus. And so he had to have somebody come and differentiate between the two of them. And actually, as Michael showed up, Michael came and said, okay, that was Jesus and that was Lucifer. Because Joseph Smith at that point had not progressed to the point that he could tell the difference between the two. Now, in many instances, we find the same thing. We see certain uh, situations, uh, and for the most part, we have a very difficult time discerning between the various, for instance, commercial systems. We have a hard time discerning those things. And so that's why education is so important. You know, and that's what I'm trying to do as an educator, is help people to be able to discern
Hmm.
the very best choice that could be made. Now, you know, I had used the example in the past of the mirror image, you know, where we did the experiment, you know, we stand in front of the mirror and we wiggle our right hand. And then I asked, you know, people, what hand is the image in the mirror wiggling? They almost always say left hand. I say, really? Take and put a great big X, you know, just take a pen or something like that. Put a great big X across your right hand. Now wiggle it in the mirror. Now which hand is it? Well, it has to be the right hand because they got the great big X on it. You see what I mean?
Right.
So much of what happens in commerce
It's an
is
inversion.
a mirror image,
Right.
and you are discerning something that is not correct. So you know that's been the purpose of
Okay.
education, is to help you to discern, you
Okay.
know, and not be tricked by a
Right.
mirror image,
Right.
because the biggest part of commerce is done in the mirror. And so many people are fooled and tricked.
It's an inversion. That's what it is, and that's how the dark operate. They invert the symbols
Well,
and meanings
again,
of everything.
anti means mirror image. Antichrist is the mirror image. Lucifer was the mirror image of Jesus. And that's what Joseph Smith got confused about. And
Hmm.
so it took somebody else to come and explain to him, okay, here's how you discern the difference between the two. Now, ever after that,
Hmm.
I would hope,
Hmm.
he can make that discrimination. But at
Hmm.
that point, he could not. And so many of the people in our commerce, in our systems, and things we're doing right here, you're faced with the same thing, and that is you see conflicting images of, for instance, of commerce, and you can't tell the difference because you haven't learned about wiggling your right hand in the mirror.
Hmm.
And so, some of us perhaps who have uh, gotten just a little bit more advanced with some of those things, we come along and say, okay, let me help you to understand the difference between what you're looking at. And then once you can discern, then you can make the choice. I mean, we're not trying to prescribe to people how they should live their lives and all that kind of thing, but we're saying, hey, at least, if you're going to make a free will choice, this is important for people to understand. In order to make a free will choice, at least the right choice has to be available. Now, prior to this time, as you've demonstrated with these documents and things like that, there's been a conspiracy to prevent people having free will because the right choice simply was not available. You can't exercise free will
Right.
if the correct choice is not available.
Right.
And so, as an educator, what I try to do is at the very least present the correct choice.
Hmm.
And then once that has been exposed, then people have free will
Hmm.
to choose it or not. That's your choice.
That's amazing, Winston. I'll tell you, you just clarified a lot. Truly, I mean, you can't make the if the right choice for a mortgage is not double-sided bookkeeping or double-sided accounting, but only single-side accounting, then the only choice we have is what's available. I know. That's my analogy. I'm going to this to let our viewers know that the archives should be fully up within the next week. So by the next Country Roads, we should have our archive of all of our previous reports uploaded on our archive channel, which is a separate channel. We have two archive channels, one for YouTube and one for BitChute. So they will be uploaded.
Okay, we want to spend a little time now when these archives get put back up. I would suggest people to go back as far as the knowledge and understanding. That go back to the very first one we did as Country Roads and start there, because what I had done was to build a model that you could start to insert information and knowledge in. And I did it in a couple of different ways. For instance, I had talked about the model of our present commercial system as it had been evolved from the King James Version of
Mhm.
the Holy Bible. And I built that model to demonstrate what we call prepaid account. And then I went into commerce to show how we had created a model based upon the King James model. You see what I mean?
Right. Hmm.
So people would be well served to go back and look at those very first productions, because that was my introduction. Now today we want to follow up on that a little bit, in as much as, and I think it may have slipped past a lot of people, but this last report we had done on the Declaration of Independence, and then we had talked about unalienable rights, which come from God, and the reason that they are unalienable is because those rights are involved in a prepay situation that we call a trust. So I had shown in that interview, and again, that it might cause a little bit of cognitive dissonance in some, but I felt
Yeah.
like, hey, let's go put on our big boy pants now, and let's talk about some reality. Because all this flag waving, shooting off firecrackers, that's fun. That's child play. So let's put on our big boy pants now, and let's talk about the reality. And so I think I successfully showed in that interview how a trust had been created and that they were using equity law to protect the trust. What are you laughing about?
Big boy pants. That's such a funny expression. I think that's funny. I know our viewers are laughing at that too. I'm sorry. You know what happens. I get a chuckle, and it takes a little while to kind of fizz.
Well, if you go back historically, the young children back in the days on the farm, when the kids were free to roam, go whatever, they didn't put diapers. Even the little boys were wearing kind of a little smock, so that if there was a certain biological problem, it simply just fell through. And then eventually, when the little boys could actually control that, then they were allowed to put on big boy pants because they could control, what happened, with some of those biological processes. So that's where the phrase come from, big boy pants.
Right, we say that to girls too,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of put your big girl panties on or something,
yeah.
big girl pants and stuff like that. Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's historical. I mean, that's the way things
it's
were
funny.
back in former times and stuff, and it was practical. I mean, we wouldn't do it today. Everybody lives in houses with carpets and all that kind of stuff, so we got to put diapers on the little ones. But back in the old days, they just let them wander out, through the yard or whatever.
We get the picture. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Winston saw me laughing. The viewers don't see it, but Winston sees it. And it
Oh yeah, I see
interrupts
it when
his
you do it.
yeah, it interrupts him. Sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Well, the point being,
Yeah.
when I say put on your big boy pants, that means grow up a little bit and
Yeah.
start to consider things at a more
Mature.
advanced
Yeah.
point of view. And so, aside from all the flag waving on the Declaration of Independence, I was trying to break it down to show people what the purpose of it was and the outcome of it and what they used to guarantee that the Declaration of Independence would have the effect that they were trying to create with it. And so you have to get past, elementary school in your thinking. And so I was just trying to, raise people's thinking a little bit to take a close look at it, from a true historical perspective. And like I say, we brought in the history by Howard Zinn, who looked at things. And let me tell you something. Howard was wearing big boy pants. Howard was doing that. And so I wanted to bring some of those elements in so that, we simply don't spend the next, 10, 15, 20 years of our lives, to simply, waving flags back and forth. That you understand, what had happened to cause the things that we rely upon. And so we rely upon those same elements to win the peace. And again, we've won the war. Can we win and keep the peace? And that is the question. you can't win and keep the peace if you go and operate in the old thought process. It won't work.
Yeah.
You'll just be swapping one tyranny for another, which I'm totally against. Totally against that.
We have to
And
trust the
so,
plan, like you said, Winston.
yeah,
Who says
yeah.
trust the plan?
And so, everybody needs to, grow up a little bit and take a close look at reality, what things really are, and not what we have been conditioned to think that they are. And so again, it's all part of growing up. Here I am 70 years old, and I hope that my life's experiences have caused me, to have a little bit of wisdom about some of these matters. And then when I gain just a little bit of wisdom, then I try to pass it on to others. And, like I say, this is just Winston. You have to develop your own concepts based on the information that you have at your disposal. And so, as an educator,
Mm.
I'm simply trying to expose some of these things so that you may exercise free will, because you can't exercise free will if the correct choice is not available. You can't do it. If the only thing available to you is the wrong answer and you choose the wrong answer, are you exercising free will? And the answer is no, you're not. And this is supposed to be a free will planet. Supposed to be. But it's not a free will planet unless the correct choice is available. And so that's what we try to do as educators, that in my particular field of commerce. That's what I'm trying to expose, is that, look, here we have all these things going on. Is there a right choice? In other words, a choice that would be for the highest and best good. That's what we're trying to get to. Now, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
So today I wanted to review some concepts, a little bit of technology that we've developed that might be helpful, for people to remove some of this commercial karma that we, by our choices, have created. And it's based upon, again, prepay. We're in a trust on this planet. The trust assets are available. But if people don't know what those assets are, then they can't exercise free will. We're talking about freedom. And how do you get into freedom if you can't make a choice which is for your highest and best good? That's the question. And so I hear people, talking a lot about, freedom. They want freedom. They this and that. And then I, kind of think, I wonder if they understand this. And by and large, people don't. Yes, ma'am.
Is this why it says "In God We Trust" on the dollar?
Well, that's a phrase that's on there.
Right, but they
But
abused it. Yeah,
yeah, but which God are they talking about?
exactly.
Is it the same God or creator that actually created this planet?
Mm,
And I would suspect
might
that it's
not be.
not.
Yeah. Mm,
Again, going back to that story of Joseph Smith, when Jesus and Lucifer both appeared to him at the same instant, he couldn't tell them apart.
mm,
And Michael had to come and say, okay, here, this one, and here's this one. Let me show you what you can use to distinguish between the two. And so when we get into our commercial processes and so forth, I'm kind of acting like that,
right.
as much as I'm saying, okay, you have these different systems out here.
Right.
And people, again, because they don't understand the mirror,
Mm,
would be fooled and tricked. And so, people like myself who have gone through that process and can discern between true and false systems, then it's our obligation to expose those things so that people will have free will, because now the correct choice is available. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, perfect sense.
Yeah.
Think it's Thank you. I have a lot of quotes I'm writing down here because it's the first time I'm hearing you say some of these things for the first time, and they're compelling. They're really compelling.
Well, yeah. Like I say, we got to put on our big boy pants. Like I say, you can be a child forever if you want to.
Yeah. In your heart.
But if you want to make progress,
Yeah.
then you're going to have to evolve from being a child and start to consider. And
Right.
perhaps some of it, is a little bit difficult. And so some of us who have gone through it can give you keys and elements of knowledge and so forth that would help you on your journey. And so that's what I do. And, a lot of other, like I say, it ain't just me. There's a lot of other people. And as you start to, elevate your knowledge and so forth, then you can be where I've been. 'Cause, I talk to people that are a whole lot smarter than me. And like I say, I just get the biggest kick out of talking to this Roger Elvey. He is so far beyond me. So far. It's hard to keep up. But the possibilities are there. The possibilities for knowledge, education are there. And luckily, in our circumstance, we've had some of these who have been willing to share some of their knowledge, and me then, as the kind of like the talking head. I mean, I'm willing to analyze and share some of these things up to certain levels, and then again, rather than say right and wrong choices, let's use this term. If you want to exercise your free will, you would choose that choice which is for your highest and best good at that point.
Sure.
Would you make the same choice that Roger Elvey would make? Probably not, because you haven't got to the point that you can understand what that choice is. And so, like, solutions in commerce, I'm only willing to go so far, and then I have to stop, because what I say publicly is heard by everybody, and it could be injurious to people, who are just, and so
just learning, just starting.
Yeah, sometimes when I start to philosophize and whatnot, I'll make hints at some of this, higher knowledge and things like that, and but I have to be careful. That's why I say, when we started off on that allegory, you remember I said, well, maybe at some point I'll analyze that. And several months later, I did.
Right.
Okay.
It's a good
Is there
educator.
more in that allegory that I did not analyze? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Will I ever expose some of that later on? Maybe. Maybe I can. Right now, I'm basically not authorized to expose some of those concepts. Maybe in the future I'll be authorized.
Okay.
And at what point that would happen, I can't say. I don't know. Do I understand a little bit beyond, yes, I do. Yes, very much I do. And so, I try to have something for everybody.
Mhm.
that they can, use and capitalize on, for their benefit. Now, today, what we're going to do again, I thought today, because we had raised the issue the other day about unalienable rights, the basis for which is that we're operating in trust. There's a trust asset in place, which means that everything in a trust is prepaid for the beneficiaries. And so, that's why unalienable rights comes into the equation. And without that trust asset, there would not be a prepay.
For folks who didn't see that, do you want to explain what that trust asset is?
Well, I just use the particular trust that had been set up by the signers
Mm.
of that declaration, and that was an exclusive group. Now, and so that's when you started using the term we. I said, no, that's not we. It's them.
Mhm.
That's what they did for themselves. It was again the rich elite who had done that. That was not a universal trust for all the people in the country. That came later. And if you go back and review my comments historically on bankruptcy, the bankruptcy of the United States of America, which ended in 1999. But anyway, at the start of the third period of bankruptcy, that's when the prepay became available
Mhm.
to all the people.
Mhm. Oh.
Prior to that time, it was only certain exclusive groups.
Mhm.
See? And so, again, if you go back and study the history, not only of the good guys and the bad guys used the same technique.
Mhm.
I mean, why was it that Ted Kennedy, when he got sued, didn't pay a penny on that civil suit? Because
Because
he
it's
didn't have anything. All his assets were tied up in a family trust.
mhm.
So, what was her name? Mary Jo Kopechne or something like that.
Mhm.
Her family sued Ted Kennedy, and it was a waste of time. So these concepts and so forth are used by the good guys and the bad guys. And so, the Rockefeller Trust, what was his statement? Own nothing, control
Control
everything.
everything. Yeah, that says it. There's a plaque at the bottom of the at the Rockefeller Center. Yeah, it says that.
They understood trust
Mhm.
and liability,
Mhm.
or lack of liability against the individual who is involved in a trust. Now, this goes again to this trust that was created at your birth. I don't think anybody listening to this report was born prior to 1933. I think, I was born in 1948, and I'm probably one of the oldest people listening to this. So it appears that, at least, maybe there's an exception in there, I don't know, but it appears that most of us fall into this category. Now, there was one fellow I dealt with some years ago, and he was an older fellow, and he was born prior to 1933. And so he was having IRS problems. And I took the position that his position, because he was born prior to 1933, his position was grandfathered in. And I took that position, helping him solve his IRS problems, and we did solve it. Was that because of the, grandfather clause, something like that? It may have had something to do with it.
Mhm.
But I was basically, pointing out to the IRS, you can't attack this guy. He was born prior to 1933. See what I mean?
Mhm.
And so, but, for most of the people that are listening here today, who were born after 1933, there were trusts that were set up, and then they tried to trick us out of it. And so the work of Solutions in Commerce has been to reverse that trickery, that thievery, and put people back into a position so that they can utilize the trust and the prepaid account. That's what I have tried to do. And like I say, it's been a development. We didn't know everything on the first day that we know now. So it's been trial and error. But as we've worked on these things, we've come up with solutions that might be helpful. So the first thing that I want to do today is share some of the information on a process that we have referred to as assignment of reversionary interest in collateral. This is actually a well-known concept if you understood what you're doing. See, I've used the example in the past. Let's say you go into a store, you find a candy bar you like, you take it up to the counter. The candy bar is collateral, okay? And so when you take out, $2 out of your pocket and you put it up on the counter, what are you actually doing with those 2 Federal Reserve notes? You're transferring the liability on the collateral from from you to the store, and you walk out of the store with the candy bar, and now the store is holding the liability in the form of Federal Reserve notes. So, as I had mentioned, you have to understand the difference between the concept of buy or purchase. Now, as I have pointed out, it's against the law to buy anything. The only thing that's available under that system is purchase, or what I would call transfer of liability. So the concept of transfer of liability is something we use every day. Typically, people don't see it that way because they're using the wrong word. And that, as I pointed out from time to time, words have meaning. And the words you use create the logic. And so if you're using the word buy instead of purchase, your logic will be incorrect. And so that's where, we try to emphasize, the proper use of words. So enough philosophizing. Let me just screen share some different elements. Again, these are a part of the DVD, Reclaiming Your Status and Assets. So let me see here. Okay. Let me read this one first because do you see that okay?
Yes.
The reason I started out this way is because the particular statute I want to refer to has been moved from when we first originally started using it. So it says,
Okay.
Yeah, so I have recently become aware of the Title 12 of the Federal Code, Title 12 of the
UCS.
Yeah. Anyway, 9582 said it's been omitted, and the same information can be found now in Title 50, which is what? Trading with the Enemy Act.
Trading with the Enemy, Title 50.
Yeah. So again, when I make reference, and when you see me in our documents that we produced at that time, you're going to see that, but it has changed to this here. Okay. That's what's happened. Okay. So I wanted to give that little caveat right up front.
You got that chemtrail cough going again, Winston, you poor thing. I know.
Well, we do the best we can.
Yep. Wish they stopped spraying us like cockroaches.
Yeah, I know.
It'll end soon, I hope.
Yeah. So let me. What in the world is this? Oh, okay. Now, with that little caveat, let me bring this other document in here, so that people can see this. Okay, again, this is what 12 USC, United States Code, is what USC means. Anyway, Title 12 is turned into Title 50. So if you're looking at it in Title 12, you're not going to find it anymore. I think they moved that in April of 2016. Okay, but let's look at it. Now, the words I have in, in bold print are the things I want to emphasize.
Okay.
So this is what 12 USC used to say. It now says it in Title 50. It says any payment, conveyance, transfer, assignment, or delivery of property or interest therein made to or for the account of the United States, which again is the United States Incorporated, that Trump's working on, or as otherwise directed pursuant to this section, or any rule, regulation, instruction, or direction issued hereunder, shall, to the extent thereof, be a full acquittance and discharge for all purposes of the obligation of the person,
Right.
the third time person, making the same, and no person shall be held liable in any court for or in respect to anything done or omitted in good faith in connection with the administration of or in pursuance of and in reliance on this section or any rule, regulation, instruction, or direction issued hereunder. Is
Right
that
there.
plain?
Right there.
Now, when I emphasize that word person, why did I emphasize that? Because in our modern use of the word person, the person refers to what we call the straw man.
Right.
All obligations of the United States or any public entity is always issued to the person, the straw man. People call me up or ask me questions, about this or that. And I said, who did the bill come to? I said, look on and see who the bill's made out to. It's always a straw man, always.
When you say that, you're referring to all capital letters.
Yeah, the all capital letter thing
Just
that
for
we
our
call
viewers.
straw man.
Clarification for our viewers. That's all. Okay. Yep.
And again, if you don't understand that concept, as part of my education, we produced a series on the straw man. If you want to understand all the concepts involved with that, go on our website, go get, and find that, order it, and study it so that you understand this concept. Because we typically use the word person as was used, 100 years ago. It's not the same.
Well, I mean, Citizens United case, declared that corporations can have personhood. So
Exactly.
exactly. That's why that's
Exactly.
an important case to remember for
So this
public
is an
policy.
important concept here. Now there's about, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different elements they're talking about in this statute. And the key one, that I'm looking at is this one here, assignment.
Right.
Because we want to do an assignment of something, and in particular, we want to do assignment of liability. And when that is done in good faith, then it is acquittance and discharges for all purposes of the obligation of the person making the same, and no person shall be held liable in any court for or in respect to anything done, blah blah blah. So it's very plain.
Right, but again, it says no person. So are they referring, is there a double use of this word here?
No.
No person. So what they did was they turned us all because of our birth
Well, it's bad
certificate.
grammar. You should say not any person if you're, if you're a grammatician or what do you call
A
somebody
wordsmith,
understands grammar,
a linguist.
lingual, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
technically, for good grammar, it should have said and not any person. They just typically, write no person, but that's bad grammar.
Okay. So no person. So in other words, no straw man. But
Yeah, and
we're
not
straw
any
men
straw
too.
man shall be held liable in any court.
But we're, by virtue of our birth certificate, we're
We're getting into
corporations.
that.
We're okay. So all right, I'm
We're
just
going to
trying
go
to.
into that.
All right, I'm trying to understand how that applies to the term person here, if it does.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk about doing an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
How should we do that? Well, there's all kinds of ways to do it. There's one particular way that I want to show, which is UCC1 financing statement.
Right.
Now, this, you have to understand a little bit of technology about this. This example I'm showing here is one that I had done electronically.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
Yeah. Now you can do it using the standard national form on paper. In my case, I just wanted to get it done, so I did it electronically.
Mm-hmm.
Now that takes a little bit. Like I say, you have to understand a little bit of technology about financing statements and some of those kind of things. It's not that hard. It's kind of funny. One time I did one of my seminars up at East City Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about this very subject, about doing assignment and all this kind of stuff. And some lady, she was just absolutely in awe. And she got up and said, "You know what?" She said, I've worked for an attorney firm for 14 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we've used financing statements for 14 years." And she said, "I never saw this. I never understood this." And she said, "Winston," said, "you're a genius." I
Mm-hmm.
said, "No, I'm not." But because she was so complimentary to call me a genius, I gave her a $25 gift certificate.
Oh, that was nice of you, Winston.
Oh, we have, when we do seminars and stuff, we have good interaction with
Mm-hmm.
people. The seminars are for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody says something like that, I try to do a little bit of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
anyway. All right. So what we're going to do with the with the UCC1 financing statement is we're going to use this method because, again, we're creating a record. We're creating a paper trail, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I because I know this kind of technology, this is the way that I chose to do it and present it.
Mm-hmm.
This I think is probably one of the more simple ways to accomplish this, and so that's why I kind of did it that way. All
Mm-hmm.
right, now the first thing that you have to do is claim, if you're going to do an assignment of something, what's the first thing you have to do? You have to claim it as your collateral. I mean, I can't, assign, Luis's collateral because it's not mine, but I can assign mine. So in this instance right here, what I'm doing is establishing my claim to certain collateral. And those are the words we use. It's not property, it's collateral. Because again, we're under the Uniform Commercial Code. We need to use the concepts and the language that you would find in that code.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse just a minute, really. All right. So the particular, I actually bring in two forms of collateral. The main one I want to point here is this one here, because that is my birth certificate.
File number.
Yeah. That's the account number on the birth certificate, and we'll get into that just a little bit more. But what I'm trying to point out, by using the UCC1 financing statement, I'm claiming my birth certificate as my collateral so that I can do something with it. So that's the first step.
Right, got it.
Okay, so again, this is just basic UCC1 technology. All right, any questions about this?
Now, claiming birth certificate as collateral.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Poor Winston.
All right, now that it's my collateral, what can I do with it? Well, I can do anything I want to do with it.
Charge against it.
Well, no, I'm not going to charge against it.
Or not charge, but let's see.
I'm going to assign it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to assign it. All right, now, once you have filed a typical UCC1, you can amend it. You can do something with it. And there's several different things you can do with it. In this case, again, once you understand a little bit about UCC financing statement, in essence, what I'm going to do, because on the initial UCC1, I am the secured party on the collateral. And what I want to do is change who the secured party is on that collateral. That's what we're doing. We're changing by assignment.
Ah, I see.
Who the secured party is on that collateral, which is in fact a liability. So we're transferring liability from one secured party to another secured party based on what? 12 USC.
Right.
Or 50 USC as it is now. That's what we're doing. Is that legitimate? It is in their world. They wrote it right into their statutes now, didn't they?
Okay.
So is this a legal operation? And the answer is yes.
Well, USC 12, but it's going to be USC 50.
Yeah, like I pointed out there just a minute ago. Okay. All right, now, so again, this is an electronic type filing. You could do it on paper, but I'm teaching the concept.
Right.
All right. So electronically, what I'm doing, again, up here, when you do a change on something, you have to tell them what it is you're changing. So there is the initial filing number that came in on the UCC1. Here again is the assignment. Okay, so this is, here's the original filing. Here is the thing that we're going to amend. And so I wrote in there, this is a full assignment of the following documents. And then I got the file number there on the birth certificate. Now this DD 214 down here, let's skip that because that has to do with, what my military participation was. So,
okay, let me just ask you something. So the filing number comes from the actual, is it on the actual form?
Yeah, on the UCC1.
So when you file the UCC1, that's already there?
Yeah.
Or do you get that after, like as a receipt that you filed?
If you when you file it electronically or on paper, they're going to assign a file number to that particular document.
Okay, got it. So you will have that for your receipt, and then when you want to go change it, that's the number that you have to use.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Now, like I say, we've done a lot of work with UCC filings,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to you go into that. If people want to, go and learn about that, you could get the DVD that we set up, for, and again, GoldFish discount applies. So,
GoldFish
you
one.
might want to announce that so people know what that discount is. But in any event, uh, like I say, I have to skip over some of the technology because we simply don't have time.
Okay.
But anyway, all right. So here is the action that we're going to take with this amendment to the initial filing. Okay. That's where I say this is a full assignment of the following documents
Oh,
that I bring in the birth certificate.
it's holding that steady.
Now, who is going to be the new secured party? Here's the key. So again, all we're doing with this amendment is we're changing who the secured party is to this document here, which is my birth certificate. Because I became liable on that when I signed the SS5 form. That was the trick. That was the trick.
When you sign that, when you apply for a social security number on an SS5, most of you might not even know because your parents already did it for you and you were born. But that's what it was, an SS5 form. That's what Winston's talking about.
Yeah. So what we're doing here is we're reversing the liability by assignment according to their statutes. This is all in the legal world. This has nothing to do with law. Get it out of your mind. This is all legal. This is all in the fiction. All right. And this is the procedure that they have set up. This is not something I invented or anybody else. This is their procedure. All right. All right. So now we're going to change who the secured party is. In this case, the secured party is going to become the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury, which is not a government agency. The Department of Treasury was broken off from the U.S. government in 1920, eventually evolving into the International Monetary Fund. It's international. Okay? People just don't know that history, and so you have to realize that. Okay, so the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury is an international organization as a part of the International Monetary Fund. That's who we're dealing with using their statutes. All right, so there's the address. Okay, any questions about this assignment?
No, I mean, you wouldn't call it IMF on here. You would definitely call it Secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury. Yeah.
Yeah, that's who we're going to do the assignment to, is the Secretary. And we're not naming the Secretary, we're naming the office. Because the personnel in that office changes from time to time. So we're not doing the assignment to a particular individual, we're doing it to the office. Okay, so there's no confusion with that.
Right.
Okay, so this is how we're doing the assignment of liability to another party, just like buying a candy bar and giving them a couple of Federal Reserve notes. We're assigning liability, which is in their statutes. You see. All right. Well, let's go on then. Let's look at
Okay. It seems pretty clear. I think also, if people are a little confused, they can review our previous reports. All of them should be uploaded in our archive pretty soon. So, so what we want to do is file that UCC1, use our birth certificate to claim as collateral. Then we want to change that. Just to recap for viewers, that we want to change the assignment, use the filing number from the original filing as the to change the secured party, reserving the liability by assignment. We use the Secretary of U.S. Department of Treasury, not the name, just the office.
Yeah. Now, again, all this information that I'm going over right now is a part of the DVD that's called Reclaiming Your Status and Assets. All this information and a discussion of it. I recommend getting the DVD. It ain't that expensive.
Okay.
Like I say, I got to keep the lights on just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And the information I'm giving out today, you're getting it for free. But I recommend getting the DVD because it has the other processes that I have talked about in the past on that DVD.
Okay.
So again, I'm being a little bit commercial here. I'm promoting my products and stuff. But why in the world do you think I put this stuff out?
Right. He had something of value to contribute, and we're just to
value
keep an eye
for
on
value.
Time. Right. Just keep an eye on time.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. All right. Now, let's look at the birth certificate itself. Oh, let's see. What I want really is this one. Let's see how I'm going to do this. So now I got to show. Here it is. All right. Can you see that?
Right. Well, it's kind of difficult to see, actually.
All right. Let me shrink it down a little bit.
Yeah. Contrast would help, but
let's see. All right.
Have contrast on there.
Maybe I do. Let's see.
Anybody probably could.
I don't know how to make it any better.
No, it's okay. People can try it on their own computers to improve
All right.
contrast.
Well, let's talk about this again.
Okay.
This is a photograph. And so this is, the top section up here is in fact a certified copy of my birth certificate from Kentucky. Now you can't see it on this photograph, but this came to me on bond paper. This is a bond. All right. Now, what I wanted to do to turn the bond into something of value was I wanted to do an acceptance on the bond. That's what I wanted to do. Now you can't see it quite, so let me see if I can't. Okay. Well, anyway, there's certain language I used on that. Accepted for value, returned, by assignment, blah, blah, blah. And then the other accepted for value language is on there. We don't have time to go over that. It's going to cost, again, you need to understand accepted for value.
Well, we can do that another time, but it's also on your DVD, so people.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is. Now let me see if I can rotate this. There should be a button here to rotate it.
Yeah, right above it. Right above it, there's that little circle thing there. It's like a little, I don't know if you see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That should be it. We'll see. You might have to take it off and rotate it and then screen share again. Screen share is funny that way.
Okay, hold on a minute. I can do that, I think, independently.
Yeah, sometimes screen share is a little funny how it works with changing documents.
Okay. Yeah, let me take this down. So there's nothing on screen share right now?
No, not right now.
Okay, hold on then.
Okay.
Let me, because this is important.
Yeah.
Uh,
This is really important, and I know we're going over time, but these are college courses, folks. This is well worth the time
okay,
if you really
I
want to
can't get
understand.
it.
No?
So let me just
Okay.
refer to it, uh, and then, like I say, you can see it on the DVD itself. But we did an endorsement on the
Right.
back of the thing. Uh, and so if you could screen, if this, the bottom section is
Right.
actually the back of
Okay.
the birth certificate itself, and there's an endorsement that we added to the back without recourse.
Hmm.
Now, again, in the DVD, I go into more of the reason why we would endorse that and the method that we use to endorse it.
Right.
So again, I'm talking about some advanced concepts here that we don't really have the time
Hmm.
to go over fully. But that's why I say get the DVD. You can listen to it as many times as you want
Right.
to get the
That's
concepts in your mind. I know.
that's good. No, it's very helpful, and you could always, email Winston a question if you have really struggling with something. That
Yeah, and
Winston,
I'm
we should also put together a list of common questions and answers that people have had that you might, have come across over and over again. That might be helpful. We might want to.
well, really before you contact me, and unless you already have the DVD, get the DVD so that
Right.
when you ask me a question about it, I can answer it
Right.
without having to write a book.
Hmm. That makes
I,
sense.
I won't do that.
Yeah.
I can't spend an hour writing a book to you,
Hmm.
when you haven't reviewed the information.
Right.
Now, having accumulated the certified birth certificate, having done the acceptance, having done the endorsement, having done the UCC1 and UCC3 assignment, now we're going to send a cover letter to
I,
the secretary.
I
Can
have a
we send it?
question. I hope I don't
Go ahead.
complicate things by this question, but are we using the authenticated birth certificate?
No,
Okay, good enough.
don't use the word authenticate. That's a different process.
I
This is
know,
a
I know,
assignment.
I know.
Assignment.
But you were talking also birth certificate, so I didn't know if but I'm not going to, that's why I said,
Well, to
I
answer
hope I
your
don't confuse
question, and this
anything.
question comes up all the time, is because the birth certificate and the certificate of live birth are not uniform among the states.
Hmm.
In some instances, because there's only one kind of document that the state will actually produce, we've had to use that document in both processes. But in respect to the assignment process,
Yes,
that's the only thing I'm willing to address today.
right. Just a certified copy of the birth certificate itself will do for this.
Yeah,
Good. Okay. That's easy to get. Anybody can go right down to your Department of Vital Statistics and get a copy, an extra certified copy of your birth certificate, and that would be fine for this process. Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
I would
Okay.
say usually you can do what you just said.
Usually,
Sometimes you
okay.
put
All
a little
right.
extra umph into it to get what you want.
Right. Okay.
And
Very
and,
good.
and on the DVD, there's actually a website that'll do it for you.
Mhm.
So again, like I say, we're kind of limited on time, but get the DVD, listen to it, listen to it, and then ask me a question about it, please.
Okay.
Don't ask me a question until you can ask a question, that I can answer, because I can't teach somebody this whole process on an email. I can't
No.
do it. I
No.
won't do it.
No.
So get the DVD and then ask me a question, okay?
Okay. I noticed you have that registered mail number up on the top. That's interesting.
Yeah, typically when we're sending documents that have monetary value,
Mm.
we would either use a courier service, or we would use registered mail through the United States Postal Service, which is courier service. In other words, when you send something registered mail, it goes hand to hand to hand. Somebody has to be responsible for that particular package at all times. It's under lock and key. They don't throw it in the mail bag.
Ah.
It's under lock and key. And so
Right,
when
which
the
is why,
transfer from one individual to another, it's all done just
right.
like courier service. That's why we use registered mail for some things.
And it has to be signed for, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Right, so that's why they come to your house, ring your doorbell, and you have to sign
Yeah, it's
because,
courier
and if you're
service.
not there, they leave you the note that you have to come to the post office and get it.
That's right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Just
in some instances, we
unless you're
use
being served
courier
something by,
service. In this particular instance, we are.
okay, sorry.
It's a little bit more expensive. That's true. But think about the effect of what you're doing here. All right.
Right.
Now, again, this is a simple cover letter, generic. You have to change your name and all your information and stuff. So this is coming from John Doe, blah, blah, blah. And so the title here is Assignment of Reversionary Interest in John Doe to the U.S. Department of Treasury. Now, the word reversionary is key.
Okay, right, sure.
In essence, what you're saying is, okay, I'm assigning the liability, in particular, on this birth certificate, and upon the death of the real John Doe, it's all yours. Reversionary, look up the word reversionary so you understand what we're saying here. All right, so this is the example, and so this is a generic of my letter that I created. And you can create whatever letter you want. This is just the way that I did it.
Yeah.
And you can see I did it on May the 25th of 2014. We've been at this a long time, folks.
Yeah, I'm looking at the first paragraph. It's good.
All right. So this is going to
Sorry.
go to the Secretary, U.S. Department of Treasury. There's the address. So, dear Mr. and Ms. Secretary. All right. Now, this next part here is I'm simply explaining, so they know why I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. Because as a result of this, technically, I turn into an internationally protected person. Mm-hmm. Internationally protected person. Anyway, during my recent studies in the history regarding Civil War, 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the Libra Code, jurisdictional changes in 1871 and 1878, and the formulation of Washington, D.C., and there's a lot of history right there.
Yeah, right.
And the separation of the cabinet position of the Department of Treasury into the U.S. Department of Treasury /IMF. Mm. See, I want them to know that I know.
Right, exactly. You have to.
So, and then with the Trading with the Enemy Act and subsequent to World War II, it has become, or should say, it has come to my attention that I may be considered an enemy of the state. I may be considered that. So we're not making legal determinations. We're simply saying, hey, it looks like that the U.S. government considers me an enemy.
Right.
Therefore, to ensure that I am not considered an enemy, and to honor the pledge of John Doe, the straw man, to the public trust, I am fully assigning the reversionary interest in John Doe to the Secretary, care of U.S. Department of Treasury, via UCC 3 full assignment as per 12 USC, and now that would change to 50 USC. Mm-hmm. This assignment includes, but is not limited to, items of collateral which have been accepted for value and assigned for settlement closure. Okay, 1. So here's what the assignment is. Certified record of birth, because that's what it says on the document. Mm-hmm. It may say something different on your document. This is a generic letter, folks. Don't copy it word for word. I mean, I get this all the time. All right, so on my document, it calls itself certified record of birth, Commonwealth of Kentucky, file number, blah, 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 for John Doe, date of birth, April 27th, 19, whatever. All right. Now, the real man, John Doe, relies upon law of nations, United Nations Commission on Public Rights, on Human Rights, the Geneva Convention, and 50 USC.
Mm.
So there's a memorandum of law, points and authorities. Okay. Now, then you sign the thing however you like to sign and send it to them. So when you send this stuff registered mail, you'd have the generic cover letter, you'd have copies of the UCC 1 and UCC 3, and also the birth certificate that you've done the acceptance on and the endorsement. That's all. How simple is it? Okay, do you have any questions about this generic letter?
None, none.
Okay,
But
great.
when we upload this, viewers, you can just put the questions, right in the comment section too, if you have any, and
Yeah, I'm not
Winston
going
might
to
take
upload these particular documents.
it. Because they're on the DVD, yeah, so you can get
They're
them.
on the DVD.
Hmm.
And rather than to send these documents out helter skelter across the internet, I want people to go and get the DVD and study it.
Hmm. You put the work into it, yeah. You got to.
Put the work into it before you even think about asking me a question. Now, this is good doctrine. We've
Hmm.
been using it now for a long time. And the other information on that DVD, in my estimate, see, I've talked about how many times have I referred to this DVD and practically begged people
Yeah.
to go and get it.
Hmm.
And how many times I've done it continuously on our GoldFish, when it was applicable to what we were talking about. But could this information be usable to people? Yeah. This is, like I say, that's what I'm doing as an educator, is developing the technology to put you, the listener, into a position so that you can exercise free will. You can't exercise free will as a slave. You can't do it. Now,
You,
this planet was designated as a free will planet. What does it take to get to the point that you can actually be a free will soul on this planet? And that's what we're trying to line up for you so that you can do it. And so,
okay.
like I say, it takes a little bit of elbow grease. I mean, you got to do a little bit of study. You're going to have to put up, 100 or 125 bucks to get the information. But again, if you don't invest in your education, it will not have the same impact on you that it would if you invested.
Mm.
So I'm telling you, invest in it, study it, use it, and then if you have questions, you're free to ask me questions, but I'm not going to answer questions of people who have not taken the time to study it. I just
Right.
won't do it.
All right, we got that message, Winston. And fair
And
enough, fair enough.
I'm not being ignorant about it. I'm
No,
just saying that's what it takes.
right.
That's what it takes to get the job done.
Hmm.
It won't get done any other way, so that's what you have to do. Period.
Very good. Thank you, Winston. Thank you, as always, for bringing this wisdom. And that's what the world needs right now is wisdom to liberate ourselves up from, to get off our knees and start taking control of our lives back in our own hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So again, like I say, we're not so much interested in. I mean, what is the value of the information on that DVD? Could I sell it for 500? Could I sell it for 1,000?
You sure
I
could.
could,
You sure could.
but I'm just putting the price on these things at a level so we can just keep the lights on,
Yeah.
and that's all.
Well,
But
that's the
the
system.
value of the
Yeah.
information,
Sure.
you can't put a price tag on it. Trust me.
Yeah, and you can't put a price tag on the value of information in these goldfish reports. And so, folks, when you do make a contribution, you're helping keeping this going, and you're helping to inform, basically, the the world of what you know, you're part of this, you participate, and your contribution makes it possible to get this information to you, because if we
Yeah,
can't
and
get it,
let's just
we
have
don't
this.
know it exists. You can't help, you can't help yourself if you don't have access. If you don't know it exists, you can't have access to it. So we do
Yeah,
appreciate. Yeah.
let's hear a hallelujah from everybody. Oh, Louisa, because of the contributions, got her internet turned back on. Hallelujah, glory.
Hallelujah. So yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, because it definitely has helped. We have a really good, steady internet connection now, and the situation's been resolved, and we hope that we can keep it going. So I do thank all the viewers, because I know the viewers who are out there who are trying to do their part and look, I mean, Winston knows I'm very humble. I mean, we're all part of this. I'm doing my part, you're doing yours, and together, you know. But we have to do it together. That's what matters here.
That's important.
Yeah, you can't expect other people to kind of change the world for us one by one by one by one. We each work collectively, and we can get it done. But we have to work together and get it done. And I do appreciate it, and I love our viewers. We're doing this, and I know I know the viewers love our programs because they tell us they love our programs. So we're really grateful too that you actually enjoy them. So thank you so much. And
Yeah,
Winston,
like I say, if you don't participate in your own liberation, you don't deserve it. If you don't participate, you don't deserve the liberation that's coming. And so participate at whatever level you can. If you can participate, with funds, if you can take the technology and put it into to work for you, so you're a participant, and you do deserve the liberation which is on our doorstep.
oh yeah, we're going to be celebrating for quite a while. There will be lots of joy on this planet finally. Long
And
overdue.
then maybe we're justified in waving the flag a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, right. I agree. So, folks, Winston, thank you so much for your time and for putting this together, because he does take time to prepare and get a great deal of information ready for all of us. So, thank you so much, Winston, and to our viewers. Just keep a lookout for, go to our WordPress blog. So it's the goldfishreport.wordpress.com. Sorry, the links are going to be in the description section. So, if you want to keep up with what the latest DNC revelations are, the WikiLeaks server, it is going to be shocking, but again, stay calm. Just we'll get through it, and the lesson is really to make sure it's never repeated. This kind of thing, that we all
Yeah.
have to participate. If we all participated, of course, we all got sick of the corruption in government, but boy, you have no idea how corrupt it really was. So we can never let it happen again. So, folks, this is what's happening now. We'll see what's going on this month. There should be some other interesting things happening. There'll be more reports, and we'll be here to bring them to you. So thank you for viewing, and this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.